Hi, everyone. Welcome to Catalyzing Conversations in Climate, or C Cubed, a new limited series podcast hosted by the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, ANDE, a part of the Aspen Institute, and WWF Impact, World Wildlife Fund's impact investing arm. I'm Laura.
And I'm Isabel. And thank you for joining in today for our first episode. This is a limited part podcast series, and we will spotlight the important role that entrepreneurship and impact investing play in furthering conservation and sustainability globally.
Each episode will feature an interview with a different leader in the green entrepreneurship space and highlight the role of innovation in startups for supporting a sustainable economy.
The goal of this show is to highlight the diversity of ideas, stakeholders, and solutions needed to further biodiversity and nature solutions, and the unique role that each play in creating the foundations for a strong innovation ecosystem.
This podcast is for everybody, from investors to the entrepreneurs, to the ecosystem support actors, and everyone in between. Come join us. We're your hosts. I'm Laura Simmons-Stern, the Global Climate Manager for the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, a program of the Aspen Institute.
And I'm Isabel Foster, Senior Impact Investing Specialist at the World Wildlife Fund on our impact investing team, WWF Impact.
This show is the first in a limited 6-part series, which will cover a variety of topics, geographies, and innovation types to show the breadth of sustainability and conservation actors that support innovation and entrepreneurship globally.
We will be featuring a range of ecosystem support organizations, including entrepreneurs, accelerators, incubators, impact investors, business impact thought leaders, and more.
Coming up on today's episode, we'll hear from a climate entrepreneur turned incubator extraordinaire leading the ecosystem in Latin America.
We're thrilled to have Felipe González Rosas with us today as our first guest. Felipe is the Climate Entrepreneurship Director at Tec de Monterrey in Mexico. He has a fascinating background in the Latin American climate tech space, starting off his sustainability career in 2019 when he launched his startup, Tyco Solutions. His company was a SaaS startup focused on renewable energy development. After 5 years with Tyco Solutions, he pivoted to support other entrepreneurs and build the climate tech sector in Latin America. Now he works at Tec de Monterrey in Mexico, leading the university's work in climate entrepreneurship, and has helped launch and direct Catalyst's accelerator work in the Latin American and Caribbean region. Welcome, Felipe. We're so excited to have you join us. So, to kick us off, what got you started in the climate entrepreneurship space, and what was your journey to where you are today?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Isabel. This is amazing. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I actually came to climate tech from consulting, and I did consulting mostly to energy and oil and gas companies. So there was a big disconnect between my values and what I wanted to do and what I was actually doing. And at some point, it just caught up with me. In 2018, I joined a renewable energy company here in Mexico. Once I was there, I started to understand much better the renewable energy development process. I realized that it was very manual, very labor intensive, and I saw an opportunity there. That's when I came up with the idea of launching Tyco Solutions. So the company did well for a while and then eventually failed, but I carry that as a badge of honor because it was a great learning opportunity for me. So not only did I learn about entrepreneurship and how to launch a business and become an entrepreneur, but I also learned a lot of stuff about climate tech that I didn't know before. I kind of started to become obsessed with climate tech. When the Catalyst initiative started and the opportunity presented itself, I took it because it was fascinating for me to work with an initiative of this sort. And so today I'm the leader of the Catalyst initiative from the Tec de Monterrey side, but the Catalyst initiative is actually an initiative that is funded by the Green Climate Fund and the German government, implemented in Latin America and Africa by GIZ, which is the German Cooperation Agency, and in the case of Latin America, by Tec de Monterrey.
That is quite the entrepreneurial journey, Felipe. It's really great to see how you've taken your hands-on experience in building a business to now informing the work you're doing, supporting these numerous entrepreneurs and scaling their own work. You know, often when we speak with entrepreneurs, they describe that aha moment when they decided to fully throw themselves into launching their venture. I'm curious, what was that moment for you, Felipe?
It was 2019. I started to map the grid of Baja California with Google Earth. This was just a the very beginning of the seed of curiosity that eventually led to Techo Solutions becoming a company. The question back then was, is there no map of the grid in Mexico that can be used and it's readily available? And the answer was no. And so from that rudimentary map that I made myself, I started to talk to colleagues and friends, and I started to show them my idea. And they said, yeah, a map is great. What if you add this and that? And I said, no idea how to do all of that, but I can find people who can help me. And so at some point I said, this is a great idea. And if I don't do this now, I'm not going to, and I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. So that was my aha moment.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Felipe. And one of the reasons why we've been so excited to have you on the show for this first episode is that you really have a unique background of both the operational experience as a climate tech founder, and now you're working in the ecosystem trying to build that, take those lessons that you've learned, implement them, and support other entrepreneurs. And so I think the work that you're doing at the moment with Tec de Monterrey and Catalyst is really exciting because you can blend both of those experiences. And so I was wondering, Felipe, for folks who might not be familiar, could you share a little bit about Tec de Monterrey and Catalyst, the work that you all are doing, and how it's contributing towards climate action in Mexico and more broadly in the region?
Sure. Yeah. So Tec de Monterrey is one of the largest educational institutions in Mexico, and it's one of the top private schools here in the country. It was founded in 1943 and has 26 campuses across the country. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of the scale and the tradition of the university. And Catalyst is a fairly unique initiative, which was born back in 2019 when I was starting Teco Solutions in the mind of Frederick Pills in Germany in an office in Eschborn. And the idea behind this initiative is that in the global south, we have a lot of talent and a lot of ideas to contribute to the climate tech world as a whole. So this initiative is bringing money from the global north to the global south to boost those solutions that we can provide. So we are just contributing a grain of sand in a huge bucket. I'm sure that with time, Latin America and Africa are going to become some of the places where many of the greatest ideas in climate tech are going to come from. Today, I lead the two flagship programs of Catalyst in Latin America, which are pre-acceleration program and the acceleration program, where we provide grants and support to entrepreneurs. But Catalyst has much more than that. Catalyst has some amazing initiatives, gender equality, climathons, where different people can come and contribute their ideas. And we work with ESOs, with venture capitals, and with a lot of actors in the ecosystem to support the entrepreneurs and the inventors that we have in the region.
And, you know, we've seen a large increase in climate tech in the LAC region over the past even 5 to 10 years, particularly given the recognition that the region is home to some of the most biodiverse ecosystems like the Amazon and the high prevalence of agricultural production. You know, Mexico's really been leading this charge. And I'm curious, Felipe, what are some of the unique opportunities, but also challenges that you're seeing in Latin America, specifically in their climate entrepreneurship ecosystem right now?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because we are just about to launch a study that we commissioned to Brighter Bridges that is an overview of climate tech market in Latin America. So when this podcast is out, that study is probably going to be readily available for listeners. And there are three key takeaways from the report. So the first one is the funding landscape. What happens here is that the climate tech ecosystem in Latin America has been able to mobilize $2 billion in the last decades. And that's a big number for Latin America, but it's just 1% of global climate venture funding. So we need to increase dramatically the size of the sector. And for that to happen, we need more venture capital and other types of investors in the region investing in the types of solutions that we have. Right now, the challenge is that there is a mismatch between what the ventures can provide and where the ventures are today, what traditional investors like venture capitals are seeking. So we need to close that gap, and there are many interesting levers in the study that can be used to closing that gap. Another interesting finding is there are also gaps in terms of sectors and geographies. So in terms of sectors, we in Catalyst receive a lot of applications from companies that are in land and resources and in the circular economy sectors. We received only a few applications in the electricity or energy sector, in the mobility sector. And there are huge opportunities in the mobility and energy sector. So we know that there must be some interesting opportunities out there, and we need to have more entrepreneurs and more companies in those two sectors. And on the geographical side, we see Mexico is with Brazil and Chile are the front runners, and they're large markets where lots of companies are based. And then we have the middle, that is Colombia, Peru, Argentina. And then we have countries that are lagging behind. And many of those countries are Caribbean countries and Central American countries that we cannot forget. So we have to work on the whole region in creating opportunities for all the countries and all the sectors. And then the other key finding is that we need to cooperate more as and with investors and with other organizations, so we can strengthen the ecosystem and make an ecosystem more articulated. Because right now, Catalyst is doing its own work, and there are other accelerators and ESOs in Brazil, in Chile, doing their own work. But we need more articulation in the region. It's a huge geographical region, so that connection is difficult to make. But we need to become more interconnected to really boost the whole ecosystem as a region.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that preview. We'll definitely have to put the link to the report when it's published in the notes so folks can take a look at it. But I think this dovetails really nicely into one of our next questions around collaboration. So one of the priorities of both WWF and Andy is really to help support collaboration between and across our networks. And so curious to ask you, Felipe, how have you seen collaboration with other entrepreneurship support organizations, ESOs, at the local or global level? How have those helped amplify your climate impact, both during your time as an entrepreneur, but also now leading the work for Catalyst in the Latin American region?
Yeah, there is still a lot of work to do, but bear in mind that when I was the founder of Tico Solutions, I started to look for accelerators, for climate tech accelerators, and the only ones that I could find were in the US and Europe. So I went through Cleantech Open. That was a great experience for me. My mentor, Judy, was one of the most important persons in my professional life. And I also was part of Greentown Labs for a while. But everything was in the US and Europe. There was nothing in Latin America. So just 5 years, probably many accelerators have appeared in Latin America. And many ESOs that already were in Latin America started to work also in the climate tech ecosystem. So it's nascent, but it's growing really fast. And I think that Catalyst for sure is the largest, and I would also say the best accelerator that there is in the region in climate tech. But there are, and we have from the beginning started to cooperate because it's a consortium between GIZ, Climate Kick, Tecnológico in Latin America. So we have worked together as a team, less of the fact that we are very different institutions, separate institutions. And we have included other ESOs and other actors like VCs, governments from the local to the federal government, and actors from the US and from Europe. And this has been very interesting, and we are starting to forge some alliances that are pretty unique, but we still have a very long way to go. We need to strengthen those alliances. And one of the things that I would like is to mobilize more resources, not only money, but also more resources from American and European ESOs into Latin America and Africa.
I think that is such a critical point, Felipe, on the need for really strategic ecosystem building and bringing in different actors to really complement each other. And, I know your ecosystem building work is really part of a growing global movement. I would love to hear from you for our audience, maybe one learning or innovation from Mexico that you believe others in the global South could benefit from.
I'm a mechanical engineer, so I have a bias for mechanical things. And so the two sectors that really move me, energy and mobility, where you find a lot of mechanical things. So in the energy sector, for example, we have accelerated some companies that have innovations that were conceived and built in Latin America, such as Parsons Kinetics. They have a wind turbine that harvests low speed winds. And it's a fantastic idea. They are competitive with solar, and their focus is on industrial and commercial. So I think that type of technologies was invented and has grown in Latin America quickly needs to go to the global north. It quickly needs to find a market in the US, find a market in Europe, because those are the most interesting markets for a company like that. And on the mobility side, I have a bias also for electric cars and bicycles. And we have supported a lot of entrepreneurs that have come up with very unique ideas here in Latin America. It's interesting because those ideas could easily be replicated from Mexico City to Mumbai to Rio de Janeiro to Kenya. But those same ideas wouldn't actually work in Washington, D.C. or New York or Paris or Berlin, because they're very unique to the global south. It's really amazing and unique.
No, that's super compelling, Felipe. And I think one of the things too that folks working in this space are always looking at is the scale piece. And you spoke to the scale piece as part of the metrics of success. And I guess kind of building off of that, how do you define success when you're thinking about supporting climate tech startups in the Latin American region? And are there specific metrics or outcomes you track? Of course, it kind of varies by sector and specific vertical areas that the company is working in, but are there kind of broad things that you're really looking for, thinking about from the Tec de Monterrey and Catalyst lens?
Yeah. So in Catalyst, we are very intentional in only accepting startups that have one, a robust business model, and two, a big mitigation potential. And so the initiative overall has very aggressive goals in both aspects. And the goal for fundraising is pretty aggressive. The goal for mitigation is also pretty aggressive. But we also consider other metrics, and we really work with companies that have a lot of different benefits to the ecosystem. And so we consider co-benefits. So, for example, adaptation and resilience. And we also pay attention to some social aspects of their business. So strongest applications that we receive a real business opportunity, but they also have a lot of mitigation potential, and they also contribute to biodiversity conservation. They also have a social edge. So many companies have the whole package, really. So during our program, we support the startups in three key areas that are business, ESG, and climate impact. And through the program, we help them put goals for themselves in the three aspects and to keep track of how they're doing in each one of those goals and to achieve those goals over time. So in aggregate, as of now, we have supported 58 companies, and overall they have raised something like $3 million in only 2 years, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but for these companies is life-changing because they are in the pre-seed and seed stages. In terms of mitigation, at the end of next year, we should have mitigated something like 100,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. That is a very difficult number to measure and a very difficult number to keep track of. So we will see when we get there, how well are we doing in mitigation. And it's also another aspect that we track and that we help the companies to track themselves. So in ESG, we help them with things like formalization of their workforce, gender equality, and things like that, having the minimum policies that they need. And we also keep track of it as well.
That is no easy feat. And, really incredible the results that you're already seeing just over the past couple of years. I look forward to seeing how that progresses. Now, you've already mentioned several very exciting examples of the entrepreneurs you've been working with and hinted at a few others to come. And would love to hear, over all these years of supporting these really incredible entrepreneurs, has there been maybe one recent project or a moment even that made you say, yes, this is why we do this work?
So right now we are already starting to work on second Catalyst 2.0 initiative, which is going to take place after 2026. And I'm really excited about it. And that is why I wake up every morning excited that we have to go out there and find a way to make this initiative continue. Because we want to expand, we want to be in more than the 8 countries where we are in Latin America and be in more than the 8 countries where we are right now in West Africa. We definitely want to have Brazil as part of our portfolio and have East Africa as part of our portfolio because there are many startups that come from those countries. And we also want to offer more opportunities and more programs to the startups, not only the pre-acceleration and acceleration programs.
No, that's phenomenal, Felipe. And it's exciting to see the on the ground impact that you and the companies you supported have had already and the energy that you and the team have for accelerating this work really moving forward.
As we're starting to wrap up, I'm curious if you had to say one thing that's really surprised you that you've learned this year that's shaped how you approach your work, what would that be?
Biggest surprise for me was in the second batch of the acceleration program, we went really heavy on human skills mentorship for all our ventures. Even though sometimes we put it not in the first priority, we put it in the second or third priority, it should always be on top of the list. It should always be humans first, human dynamics first, because the relationships with other humans, what we experience every day and what is take this company to the next level or not. So we are doubling down next batch on this. We have fantastic mentors that help us with that. And we have still work to do in the Catalyst team itself.
This is such a critical point that you bring up that I think, especially in the climate tech world, might be overlooked sometimes, that human aspect of it. That's really great to hear that you're focusing on that.
And I guess kind of looking forward, you're doing incredible work with Catalyst, Tec de Monterrey, the other initiatives you're working on. What types of support, partnerships, opportunities are you looking for right now and trying to scale some of this impact and work that you're doing, Felipe?
Yeah, but the first thing that we need is more investment, and we need investors to come and take a look at the ecosystem and fund our startups for sure, but also be open to fund things like Catalyst. These types of programs of non-dilutive funding have a lot of impact. That's the reason it's called Catalyst. It's catalytic funding. That is something very commonplace in the US, for example, through grants with the government, but it's not as common in Latin American and African countries. The other thing, we would like to have much stronger relationship with ESOs in the global north. This initiative was initially funded by the German government and the Green Climate Fund, so it has a big public money component to it. And we are open to also having public actors come into funding the Catalyst initiative from any country in the world, from regional governments, from the federal government of any of the countries where we operate. So we really are open. Our doors are wide open to everybody who wants to contribute, and they can contribute in terms of money or with their knowledge or with their time.
To close the show, we're letting each of our guests wrap up with one sentence or phrase that gets them excited about the future. So for you, Felipe, how would you describe the future of climate entrepreneurship in Mexico and Latin America over the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, the future is bright. It has taken this ecosystem a decade to become what it is today, which is very nascent and very small, but growing. I'm really excited that the next 5 to 10 years is going to be when this ecosystem really takes off and great things are going to happen. So I think that we need to double down on investing in Latin America, investing in Africa, and supporting initiatives like Catalyst, because there are great things about to happen here.
That's phenomenal. Well, thank you, Felipe, so much for joining us today. And for listeners who want to connect with you directly, find out more about your work, support, collaborate, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and get in touch?
Sure. So they can write to me an email directly to Felipe González Rosas at tech.mx or through LinkedIn. I answer every DM that I get. So message me every time.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Felipe. This has been fantastic conversation. Really appreciate you joining us today, and so grateful for all the work that you're doing, leading and helping shape the climate tech space, both within Latin America and also globally. So thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Laura. This has been great, and I really appreciate your having me on your show.
And with that, it's a wrap. Thank you for tuning into this episode, and a big thank you again to Felipe for joining us today for this really thoughtful conversation on climate entrepreneurship, accelerators in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Please join us and follow along as we speak with a variety of incredible leaders in the climate, nature, and entrepreneurship and investment space from around the world.
Please rate and review our podcast, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on upcoming episodes.
If you have any thoughts, feedback, or would like to get in touch, please feel free to reach out to us directly. See the show notes for more information on how to contact us.
Thanks all, and see you again soon.